Okay, guys, we are back with the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. Today, we will be looking at Act 2, which is one of my personal favorites. It's the act before everything starts to go terribly wrong for these two people. So let's review Act 1 really, really quickly before we jump into it. So, Act 1 reveals a bitter, long-standing feud between the Montagues and the Capulets. Again, we don't know why they're fighting, they're just mad at each other. It also introduces the play's titled characters who meet at the party and immediately fall in love, only to discover that they come from the opposing sides of the feud. So, Romeo is a Montague, Juliet is a Capulet. Can't work. As you read Act 2, think about the choices Romeo and Juliet make as both of their love and the conflict they face intensify. Act 2, I will say, is interesting because it's the only other act that we have in the play that also has another prologue. We talked about the prologues for Act 1 as being something where an actor would come on stage and basically just tell the audience additional information. So they're not a part of the story, they're just kind of talking directly to the audience, okay? So this says, now old desire doth in his deathbed lie, and young affection gapes to be his heir. That fair, for which love groaned for and would die with tender Juliet matched, is now not fair. Now Romeo is beloved and loves again, alike bewitched by the charm of looks, but to his foe, suppose he must complain, and she still loves sweet bait from their fateful hooks. Being held a foe, he may not have access to breathe such vows as lovers used to swear. And she, as much in love, her means much less to meet her beloved anywhere. But passion lends them power, and time means to meet, tempering extremities with extreme sweet. So basically, just reiterating the fact that they shouldn't be in love, they shouldn't hang out. They're gonna do it anyway. Okay, so let's look at scene one. Scene one is really, really short, and this is at the end of the party. So Act 1 ends with scene 5, where Romeo and Juliet have that really, you know, weird kiss, and they separate. They find out that each other comes from the other side of the family, and now the party's over. So in this scene, we're going to have Romeo hiding from his friends, Benvolio and Mercutio, because they're going home, right? It's kind of bro code or any type of human code that if you go to a party with a friend, you leave with that friend. So Benvolio and Mercutio are trying to go home and they're looking for Romeo. They went with him, but he's hiding because he's hoping that he can sneak a peek back at Juliet because she lives there. Romeo says, can I go forward when my heart is here? Turn back a dull earth and find thy center out. And then here comes Benvolio and Mercutio calling for Romeo. Romeo, my cousin, Romeo, Romeo. He is wise, and on my life hath stolen him home to bed. So Mercutio's like, he's probably out, because Mercutio already thought he didn't even want to be there anyway. He ran this way and leapt this orchard wall. Call, good Mercutio. Nay, I'll conjure too. Romeo, humours, madman, passion, lover, appear thou in the likeness of a sigh. Speak but one rhyme, and I'm satisfied. Cry but I me. Pronounce but love and dove. Speak to my gossip Venus one fair word. And one nickname by her pure blind son and heir, young Abraham Cupid. He that shot so true when King Cophetua loved the beggar maid. He heareth not, he stirreth not, he moveth not. The ape is dead, and I must conjure him. I'll conjure thee by Rosalind's bright eyes, by her high forehead, her scarlet lip, her fine foot, straight leg and quivering thigh, the demesnes that there adjacent lie, that in thy likeness thou appear to us. So it's ironic here that Mercutio is trying to lure Romeo out by pretending to be Rosalind. Now again, he's not actually pretending to be Rosalind. He's more or less making fun of Romeo for being, the lover and the dreamer and, all things romantic. But we know, this is another form of how Shakespeare is using dramatic irony, that he's probably not going to come out if you pretend to be Rosalind because he doesn't love her anymore, right? Ah, hath my heart loved until now, right? And so he doesn't know that Romeo has seen Juliet and they've shared because he doesn't know any of that happened. Nobody knows that that has happened except the two of them. Benvolio says, and if he hear thee, thou wilt anger him. It's like, you're going to make him really mad. This cannot anger him. 'Twere to anger him to raise a spirit of the mistress circle of some strange nature, letting it there stand, till it laid it and conjured it down. That were some spite of my invocation, is fair and honest, and in my mistress's name I conjure only but to raise him up. Come, he hath hid himself among the trees to be consorted by the humorous night, blind is his love, and best befits the dark. So Benvolio's like, let's just leave him alone. He wants to sulk about Rosalind. Just let him just, sit there and be in his feels in the dark. Mercutio says, if love be blind, love cannot hit the mark. Which, that low-key is kind of true, if you think about it. The idea that Cupid is blindfolded, and, how can Cupid make you fall in love intentionally if it's just kind of, out in the middle of nowhere? Which I guess is kind of what Romeo says. It's like, I can't help who I fall in love with. It's Cupid, and he can't even help it. Now will he sit under the medlar tree and wish his mistress were that kind of fruit as maids call meddlers when they laugh alone. O Romeo, that she were, oh, that she were, an open, etc. Thou and poprin pair. Romeo, good night. I'll to my truckle bed. This field bed is too cold for me to sleep. Come, shall we go? Go then, for 'tis in vain to seek him here, means not to be found. So they low-key leave him at the party because they're like, he's not coming, all right? And so obviously he wants to be left alone. And so they're like, I'm going to bed. Mercutio says, the ground is too cold for me to sleep on. I'm not about to sleep on the floor for this guy. And so they go home and leave Romeo there outside of Juliet's house. Now, in scene 2, that's the end of scene 1. In scene 2, we have the infamous balcony scene. This is the classic quote, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo, right? And so I want to kind of set the stage as to what's happening in scene 2, because in scene 2, we have Romeo who's trespassed, just so we're very clear. He has jumped over the fence, kind of the orchard wall, into Juliet's kind of like courtyard, her backyard area, hoping to maybe see where her bedroom is. And so he's kind of hiding in the bushes. Again, he's not allowed to be there. Okay, so he understands that if he gets caught, it could be kind of dangerous. And again, nobody else knows that he's there inside the house. So imagine if you're, in your room and then you look and somebody's hiding in your backyard. You will call the police pretty immediately, right? And so that's what Romeo's doing. And so when you see these two talking here, there's a distinction. They're not talking together for the beginning of the scene. Romeo's hiding behind a tree, and Juliet, when she comes out into her balcony, she's just talking out loud, right? That's one of the things of plays. You have to have them have monologues or soliloquies where they're kind of just talking to themselves, because we don't have the benefit of seeing that that type of prose, right? We don't see that narration that would come from a novel. So playwrights have to write it where they're actually saying how they feel, because we can't, read it on a page. So here's Romeo as he's looking for Juliet. He jests at scars that have never felt to wound. So he's referring to Mercutio here. He's saying, like, Mercutio's only laughing, because he's never been in love before. And as Romeo's hiding behind the tree, he sees Juliet. And he says, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who's already sick and pale with grief, that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. So he sees Juliet kind of at her balcony, in her window, just kind of looking up at the sky, and he says that she is the sun. She's so beautiful. He's never seen anyone more beautiful than her. And he talks about her almost like the moon would even be mad and sad because the moon knows that the moon's not the sun, right? The moon only reflects the sun. The sun ultimately is what gives everyone life, not the moon. And so he's saying the moon is jealous of her. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green. This is also where we get green with envy. Shakespeare. And none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she were, she knew she were. She speaks, and yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. So at this point, he's thinking, should I go? Should I go say something? Should I tell her I'm watching her? He says, oh, I'm too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks, two of the fairest stars in all of the heavens. Having some business, do entreat her eyes do twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think that it were not right. See how she leans her cheek upon that hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. And Juliet, talking by herself, says, ay me. She speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious as night, being over my head, as is a winged messenger of heaven, unto the white upturned wandering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him, when he bestrides the lazing puffing clouds and sails upon the bosom of the air. So again, they're separate. Romeo's hiding in the bushes, saying, I want to listen to what she's about to say because she is the sky. And Juliet doesn't know anyone's listening. Juliet is just going to talk, all right, basically to herself. Now, is this an invasion of privacy? Yes. But here we are. You can also think about it like maybe this way, that Juliet probably would have never have been this forward. And she actually tells Romeo this later on. She would never say everything that she's about to say aloud to Romeo specifically. So Juliet says, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father, and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not be but sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. Shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this? 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, thou not a Montague. And what is a Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What isn't a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes. Without that title, Romeo doth thy name. And for that name, which is no part of thee, take all of myself. So Juliet here is saying, it's just your name that is the problem, right? If you were any other name in Montague, if you did not have the name Montague, we could be together. But because your dad's last name is Montague, we can't. She's like, what is a name? It's not anything tangible. It's something abstract. And he's like, oh, Romeo, just get rid of your name, and then we can be together. Now, Romeo is kind of becoming unhinged, and he lashes out from behind the tree, startling Juliet, rightfully so. And I want you to pay close attention here to the fact that Juliet, now it is dark, give her a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but she doesn't recognize Romeo when he jumps out of the tree and basically says, I'm here. Juliet freaks out and doesn't even really recognize him. And it takes her a while because Romeo refuses to say his name because he's like, I don't want to say my name because it's an enemy. You don't like my name. Which that's not what she was saying, Romeo. But finally, Juliet's like, wait, I think I recognize your voice. Are you the love of my life? And Romeo's like, that's me. So Romeo, jumping out of the tree, says, I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized. Henceforth, I'll never be Romeo. What man art thou, thus bescreened in night, so stumblest upon my counsel? By name I know not how to tell thee who I am, my dear. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. Had it written, I would tear the word. My ears have not yet drunk 100 words of thy tongue's utterances. I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo and a Montague? Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike. How camest thou hither? Tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high, and hard to climb, and a place of death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find me here. With love's light wings did I approach these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out. For what love can do, that dares love attempt, therefore thy kinsmen are no stop to me. If they do see thee, they will murder thee. Alack! There lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look, thou but sweet, and I proof against their enmity. I would not for the world they saw thee here. I have night's cloak to hide me from their eyes, but thou love me? Let them find me here. My love were better ended by their hate than death prorogued wanting of thy love. But whose direction foundest thou out this place? By love. At first did prompt me to inquire, lent me in counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as the vast shore washed and far the sea, I should adventure for some merchandise. So Juliet's being very pragmatic here. She's like, you can't be here. You're a Montague and a dude in my backyard. If my guards find you here, they're going to kill you. How did you get here? And Romeo's just talking in lovey-dovey. He's like, oh, Cupid's wings flew me over the walls. And she's like, no, you'll die. And he's like, I can't die if you love me. And Juliet's like, but really, how did you get here? And he's like, oh, love called me here. And so Romeo's like, we see the difference between them, right? Juliet's a lot more grounded than Romeo. Romeo's just swept up, right? We talked about that in Act 1. He gets swept up in the emotion that he's currently experiencing. Right now he's experiencing overwhelming love. He is overwhelmed. Let's see what Juliet says. Juliet says, thou knowest the mask of the night on my face, else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek, for that which thou hast heardest me speak tonight. So she's like, I can't believe you heard all of that. Fain would I dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I'll take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou mayst prove false. At lovers' perjuries, they say Jove laughs. O gentle Romeo, if thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully. Or if thou thinkest I am too worn, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay. So thou wilt woo, what else? Not the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayest think my haver light. But trust me, gentlemen, I prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. So she's like, I'm really sorry. I was pretty forward back there, which, girl, you were talking to yourself. It's fine. And she's like, please don't, use that against me, right? Please don't think I'm, a forward person. I love you so much. Please love me. She's like, I'm not trying to do that. I should have been more strange, I must confess. So she's like, I should have, been more coy. Should have been like, oh, I don't know if I like you or not. Right? Elementary school kids do this. They're like, do you like me? I don't know. Right? She's saying that. I must confess, but that thou heardest ere I were my true love's passion. Therefore pardon me, and I'm to impute this wielding of the light love which the dark night hath so discovered. Lady, by yonder blessed moon, I vow, that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops. Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. So she's like, you can't swear that you love me on the moon because the moon's always changing, right? The moon changes every night. Then Romeo says, well, what should I swear by then? Do not swear at all, for if thou wilt swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee. Well, if my heart's dear love, well, do not swear, although I joy in thee. I have no joy in this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like a lightning, which doth cease to be ere one can see it lightens. Sweet good night. This bud of love, by summer's ripening breath, may prove the beauteous flower when next we meet. Good night. Good night, a sweet repose and rest come to thy heart, as that within my breast. And so she's like, this is too rash. This is too much. We shouldn't be professing love in the dark after a big party. Let's just take a break. Romeo says, oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied? And Juliet, low-key calls him out. What satisfaction canst thou have tonight? It's like, what did you think was going to happen tonight? But then Romeo comes back. He says, the exchange of thy love's faithful vow for mine. I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again. Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love? But to be frank and give it to thee again. So she's like, I already told you that I loved you, but I'll take it back if you want, so I can give it to you again. And Romeo's like, why would you take it back? So I can give it to you again, right? So I can tell you that I love you over and over and over again. And yet I wish but for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea. My love is deep. And the more I give to thee, the more I have. And both are infinite. And then she hears the nurse calling from inside of her house. I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little while, and I'll come again. Oh, blessed, blessed night. I am afeard being a knight. All this is but a dream, too flattering sweet to be substantial. 3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love is honorable, and thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all of the fortunes at thy foot I will lie, and come thee, Lord, my lord, throughout the world. So she says, if you really love me, and your love is honorable, let's get married. Sure, because, mind you, what did we just read a few hours earlier in Act 1? When Juliet's mom says, hey, what is your disposition to be married? And she's like, it's an honor I've dreamed that of. She's dreaming about it now, right? It's interesting. But she says, I'll send somebody to you to basically get the details of the wedding. And the nurse is still inside Juliet's room calling for her. Madam, I come anon, if thou meanest not well, I do beseech thee. Madam, by, I come. To cease thy strife, and let me to my grief tomorrow I will send. So thrive my soul, 1,000 kinds good night. 1,000 times the worse to want thy light. Love goes towards love as schoolboys by their books, but love from love towards school with heavy looks. Hist, Romeo, hist! Oh, for falconer's voice to lure this tassel gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak loud, else I would tear the cave of Echo lies. Talking about the mythology of Echo and Narcissus here. And make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo. It is my soul that calls upon thy name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, the softest music to attending ears. Romeo, my sweet, what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee? By the hour of 9. I will not fail. 'Tis 20 year till then. I've forgotten why I called thee back. Well, let me stand here till thou remember it. I shall forget. To have thee stand there remembering how I love thy company. And I'll stay. To have thee still forgetting any other home but this. And so Juliet calls Romeo back. And she gets distracted. She's like, I forgot why I called you back. Because you're so distracting. You're so beautiful. He's like, I'll just keep waiting. That's fine. And she's like, I'll just keep forgetting. Young love. 'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no farther than a wanton's bird that let its hop from a little from his hand, like a poor prisoner in his twisted guise, and with the silken thread plucks it back again, so loving jealous of his liberty. I would I were thy bird. Sweet so would I, yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night, parting is such sweet sorrow, that I shall say good night, till it be morrow. Sleep fell upon thine eyes, peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace, so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly friar's close cell, to help crave thy dear hap to tell. So they say goodnight. Romeo tells us that he's going to go to his friend's house, who's the friar, who's basically equivalent to like a priest, and ask for the priest's help to get them married. Okay. That is where we're going to stop, and then we will pick up with Friar Lawrence's cell.